The massive ship Stellar Harmony moved through space like a floating city. Inside its halls, beings from 12 different worlds walked together. Some had scales that caught the light. Others floated on thin legs. A few glowed with soft colors. But whenever the humans passed by, the hallways became quiet. Captain Lee Tae-min noticed this strange behavior on his third day aboard the ship. He was walking to the main dining hall when he saw a group of tall, bird-like creatures quickly step aside, their feathers ruffled with what looked like fear. Lee Tae-min had been a diplomat for 15 years. He knew when people were afraid, but he could not understand why. Dr. Park So-young was having the same problem. She spent her days studying how different species got along. But every time she tried to talk to the other passengers, they found reasons to leave. The small, furry Kellians would bow politely and walk away. The crystal beings would dim their lights and float to another part of the ship. "Something is wrong," Park So-young told Lee Tae-min when they met for breakfast. "I have never seen aliens act this way around humans before." Lee Tae-min picked at his food. Around them, the dining hall was full of different species eating together. But there was an empty circle around the human table. "Maybe they are just being polite," he said. But he did not believe his own words. At the far end of the hall, Commander Vextal sat with his Saurian warriors. The reptilian soldiers were known across the galaxy for their courage. They had fought in 100 battles and feared nothing. But even these brave fighters kept looking at the humans with nervous eyes. Commander Vextal tried to eat his meal, but his hands shook slightly. One of his younger soldiers leaned close and whispered, "Commander, why do we sit so far from them?" "Quiet," Vextal hissed back. "Do not draw their attention." The young soldier looked confused. "But they are just talking and eating. They seem normal." Commander Vextal's scales turned a darker color. This was a sign of deep worry among his people. "Normal," he said in a very low voice. "There is nothing normal about them. Have you not heard the stories?" Near the center of the hall, High Priestess Yil-Andra floated above her followers. Her people were made of pure energy and could read the emotions of others. But when she looked toward the humans, she quickly turned away. "Priestess," one of her followers asked, "what do you sense from them?" Yil-Andra's light grew dimmer. "Emptiness," she whispered. "A cold, empty space where feelings should be. It frightens me more than any storm or fire." The humans continued eating, not knowing about the fear around them. Dr. Park So-young tried to smile at a group of insect-like beings at the next table. They immediately got up and left. "This is getting ridiculous," she said to Lee Tae-min. "We are supposed to be going to a peace conference. How can we make peace if everyone runs away from us?" That afternoon, Ambassador Kim Do-hyun decided to find answers. He was young for a diplomat, only 32 years old. He still believed that honest questions could solve most problems. He found Elder Korthak sitting alone in the observation deck. Elder Korthak was ancient, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His compound eyes had seen many wars and many peace treaties. He was known for being wise and brave. If anyone would talk to a human, it would be him. "Elder Korthak," Kim Do-hyun said as he sat down nearby. "May I ask you a question?" The old insect's antennae twitched. His hundreds of small eyes all turned to look at the human. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke in his clicking voice. "You may ask, young human, but I may not answer." Kim Do-hyun leaned forward. "Why does everyone on this ship act afraid of us? We have done nothing wrong. We are here to help make peace between the species." Elder Korthak's eyes grew dark. This was how his people showed deep thought or worry. "Peace," he clicked slowly. "Yes, you humans are very good at making peace. Too good, perhaps." "I don't understand," Kim Do-hyun said. The old being stood up on his 6 legs. He moved closer to the window that showed the stars outside. Your species, he said without looking back, carries the mark of the untouchable ones. Even our bravest warriors speak your name only in whispers. Kim Do-hyun felt a chill run down his spine. Untouchable ones. What does that mean? Elder Korthak turned around. His voice became very quiet. It means that there are things in this galaxy that should not be touched, should not be disturbed, should not be awakened. Your people have touched those things, and now we fear what you might touch next. But we are peaceful people, Kim Do-hyun said. We came here to help. Yes, Elder Korthak clicked. That is what makes you so terrifying. Before Kim Do-hyun could ask more questions, Elder Korthak began walking toward the door. Please, tell me more, Kim Do-hyun called after him. The old insect stopped at the doorway. Some knowledge is too dangerous to share, young human. Some truths are better left buried. Your people learned this lesson long ago. Perhaps it is time you remembered it. With that, Elder Korthak left. Kim Do-hyun sat alone by the window, staring at the stars. Around him, the ship continued on its journey to Nexus Prime. But now he knew that they were not just carrying diplomats to a peace conference. They were carrying a mystery that made the bravest beings in the galaxy afraid. That night, Kim Do-hyun called a meeting with the other humans on the ship. Captain Lee Tae-min, Dr. Park So-young, and 6 other diplomats gathered in a small meeting room. We have a problem, Kim Do-hyun told them. The other species are afraid of us. Not just nervous or uncomfortable, actually afraid. That's impossible, said one of the older diplomats. Humans have been part of the galactic community for decades. We have helped end wars and solve problems. Maybe that's the problem, Dr. Park So-young said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. Maybe we have been too good at solving problems. Maybe we have solved problems in ways that scared them. Captain Lee Tae-min frowned. What are you suggesting? I don't know, Park So-young replied. But I think we need to find out what happened in our past, something that made us untouchable to the other species. As the meeting ended, each human went back to their rooms with new questions. Outside, their windows, the stars seemed to hold secrets. And somewhere in those secrets was the truth about why an entire galaxy had learned to fear them. The ship Stellar Harmony continued toward Nexus Prime, carrying its cargo of hope and fear toward a destination where both would be tested. Nexus Prime was the largest space station in the galaxy. It floated between 3 star systems like a metal moon. Millions of beings from hundreds of worlds lived and worked inside its massive structure. When the Stellar Harmony docked, the human passengers hoped things would be different here. They were wrong. Dr. Choi Hye-jin walked through the station's main plaza and watched the same pattern repeat itself. Crowds of aliens would part around her like water around a rock. Shop owners would serve her quickly and look away. Children from different species would stare at her until their parents pulled them away. This has to stop, she said to herself. Dr. Choi was a historian who specialized in galactic conflicts. If there was something in humanity's past that caused this fear, she would find it. That same day, she met Scholar Morden in the station's great library. Scholar Morden was an Etherian, a species known for their love of knowledge. His people were tall and thin, with skin that changed colors based on their thoughts. Right now, his skin showed the deep blue of curiosity mixed with the yellow of worry. Dr. Choi, he said in his musical voice, I have been expecting you. Expecting me? She asked. Scholar Morden's skin shifted to green, which meant he was being very careful with his words. Word travels fast on Nexus Prime. The humans have arrived and they want answers. I am perhaps the only being here brave enough to help. You find them. They walked together into the deepest parts of the library. Here, old data crystals held information from thousands of years ago. The air smelled of metal and time. What I am about to show you is dangerous, Scholar Morden said. My people could cast me out for sharing this knowledge, but I believe the truth is more important than safety. He led her to a restricted section that required special permission to enter. His credentials got them inside, but Dr. Choi noticed how the other librarians watched them with fear. Here, Scholar Morden said, activating an ancient data crystal, the records of the Great Cataclysm. Dr. Choi had heard of the Great Cataclysm, of course. Every school child in the galaxy learned about the terrible war that had nearly destroyed all civilized life 500 years ago. But as she read the files, she realized she had never heard the complete story. 3 empires, Scholar Morden explained. The hegemony, the dominion, and the collective. They started fighting over resources. Then, the fighting became about revenge. Then it became about total destruction. The records showed images of dead worlds and burning fleets. Entire species had been wiped out. Solar systems had been turned into graveyards. How did it end? Dr. Choi asked, though she was beginning to suspect the answer. Scholar Morden's skin turned completely white, which meant he was very afraid. The humans came. Dr. Choi read through the files. The humans had appeared from an unknown region of space just when the war was at its worst. They had ships, but not more than the great empires. They had weapons, but not better ones. Yet somehow, they had ended a war that was destroying the galaxy. But how? She asked. That, Scholar Morden said, is where the records become strange. He showed her file after file of incomplete information. Battle reports that had been edited, military records with entire sections removed, witness accounts that stopped in the middle of sentences. Someone has been hiding the truth, Dr. Choi realized. Not hiding, Scholar Morden corrected. Protecting. The galaxy has been protecting itself from this knowledge for 5 centuries. Meanwhile, in another part of the station, engineer Han Ji-woo was having his own discoveries. He worked with the station's power systems and had access to old energy records. While running routine maintenance, he found something that should not have existed. These energy signatures don't match anything I know, he told his assistant, a young Kellian named Piptor. Piptor looked at the data and his fur stood up straight. Sir, maybe we should not look at this. Why not? Han Ji-woo asked. It's just energy data. But Piptor was already backing away. Please, sir, some things are better left alone. Han Ji-woo studied the energy patterns more closely. They were from 500 years ago during the Great Cataclysm. But the signature was unlike anything in the current technology databases. It was human technology, but not any human technology he had ever seen. In the military section of the station, Lieutenant Colonel Bae Min-ho was having similar problems. He had requested access to human military records from the Cataclysm period. The request had been denied. Denied? He asked the records officer, a professional military human like himself. I have top-level clearance. Not high enough for this, the officer replied. These records are classified beyond even general-level access. What could be so secret about a war that ended 500 years ago? The records officer looked around to make sure no one was listening. Then he leaned closer. Colonel, take some advice from someone who has been doing this job for 20 years. Don't dig into this. There are some things that are classified for good reasons. That evening, Dr. Choi and Scholar Morden worked late in the library. They had found fragments of the truth, but nothing complete. Every time they got close to the real story, the records would be corrupted or missing. There, Scholar Morden said, pointing to a partially recovered file. General Yoon Sang-ho. He led the human fleet during something called the Intervention of Tears. Dr. Choi read the fragment. It mentioned a final battle but gave no details. It talked about a solution that ended the war but did not explain what the solution was. Intervention of Tears, she repeated. Why would they call it that? Scholar Morden's skin turned dark purple, which meant he was very disturbed. Perhaps, he said slowly, because whatever they did made even the humans cry. They worked until the early hours of the morning. Slowly, a picture began to form. The humans had not won the war through superior force. They had not negotiated a peace treaty. They had done something else, something that was so effective it ended a galactic war, but so terrible that all records of it had been hidden or destroyed. "Look at this," Dr. Choi said, finding another fragment. It mentions a species called the Devourers. They were apparently the cause of the war. "I have never heard of the Devourers," Scholar Mordun said. "Neither have I. But according to this, they were responsible for starting the conflict between the three empires." She read further. The Devourers were described as parasites that consumed entire populations. They had spread from world to world, causing the empires to fight over the few remaining safe planets. "And then the humans came," Scholar Mordun said, reading over her shoulder. "And the Devourers disappeared." "Disappeared how?" "The files don't say. They just stopped existing." Dr. Choi felt a chill. An entire species did not just disappear by accident. Someone had to make them disappear. They were so focused on their research that they did not notice the figure watching them from the shadows. When they finally looked up, Scholar Mordun's workstation had been remotely accessed. All the files they had been reading were gone. "What happened?" Dr. Choi asked. Scholar Mordun's skin went completely black. This was the color of terror among his people. "Someone has been watching us," he whispered. On Dr. Choi's personal terminal, a message appeared. It was written in perfect galactic standard, but there was no sender identification. "Some truths are too dangerous for the galaxy to remember. Stop digging or learn why the galaxy fears what humans are willing to do." Scholar Mordun stood up quickly. "I have to go," he said. "I'm sorry, Dr. Choi, but I cannot help you anymore." "Wait," she called, but he was already leaving. Dr. Choi sat alone in the library, surrounded by empty data crystals and deleted files. Outside the windows, Nexus Prime continued its eternal orbit between the stars. Somewhere in those stars was the truth about what humans had done 500 years ago. And somewhere else, there were those who would do anything to keep that truth hidden. She closed her terminal and walked back to her quarters, but she knew she would not sleep. Tomorrow, she would continue searching, because if the galaxy feared humans this much, she needed to know why, even if the answer was more terrible than she could imagine. The distress signal came at 0300 station time. Captain Ryu Yunseo was sleeping when her ship's computer woke her with urgent beeping sounds. "Captain," her communications officer said over the intercom, "we have a code-red distress call from the civilian transport New Dawn. They report pirate attack in the Kepler border zone." Captain Ryu sat up in her bed aboard the human cruiser Defiance. The Kepler border zone was known for pirate activity, but attacks on civilian transports were becoming more common. "How many souls aboard the New Dawn?" she asked. 237, Captain. Mixed species, including humans." Captain Ryu was fully awake now. "Set course for their location. Maximum speed." "Yes, Captain. ETA is 47 minutes. As the Defiance raced through space, Captain Ryu studied the situation reports. The New Dawn was a medical transport carrying doctors and supplies to a colony world. Among the passengers were Dr. Oh Seung-min and his 12-year-old daughter, Oh Na-ri. They were human civilians doing humanitarian work. The pirates had disabled the transport's engines and were demanding ransom. Their leader was identified as Warlord Kexavar, a brutal criminal known throughout the sector. When the Defiance arrived at the scene, they found they were not alone. Captain Zulthor of the Saurian dreadnought Blood Talon had also responded to the distress call. The massive alien warship was 3 times the size of the human cruiser. "Captain Ryu," came Zulthor's voice over the communications channel. "I arrived 15 minutes ago. The pirates have threatened to kill hostages if we attack." Captain Ryu looked at her tactical display. The pirate ship was an old cargo vessel that had been fitted with weapons. It was no match for either the Defiance or the Blood Talon, but the hostages made direct assault impossible. "Captain Zulthor," she said, "please maintain your distance. Let us handle this situation." There was a long pause. Captain Zulthor was a decorated war hero. His ship was larger and more powerful. By all military logic, he should be leading this rescue operation. "Understood, Captain Ryu," he finally said. "My ship will maintain position at the edge of the system." Captain Ryu's crew looked surprised. Lieutenant Park Gwang-ho, her tactical officer, spoke quietly. "Captain, why did he agree so quickly? Saurian commanders are usually very proud." Captain Ryu did not answer immediately. She was studying the pirate vessel and thinking about the best approach. "Send a message to all other ships in the area," she said. "Tell them to maintain at least 50,000 kilometers distance." "Captain," her communications officer said, "there are 7 other vessels here. Military ships from 4 different species. They're all moving to the system's edge." "Good," Captain Ryu said simply. "On the Blood Talon." Captain Zulthor watched the human ship approach the pirates alone. His tactical officer, a young Saurian named Veltar, looked confused. "Captain, why are we not helping? We have superior firepower." Captain Zulthor's scales darkened with worry. "Because, young Veltar, there are some situations that are better handled by humans. Pray to your ancestors that we never have to see why." Aboard the pirate ship, Warlord Kexavar was feeling confident. His crew of mixed species had successfully captured a valuable transport. The ransom demands would make them all rich. "Look at this," he said to his second-in-command, a scarred Kellian named Raxtal. 7 military ships, and they're all running away. Only 1 human ship dares to come close. Raxtal looked at his instruments. "Boss, maybe we should be worried about that human ship." "1 ship against us?" Kexavar laughed. "We have hostages. They won't risk civilian lives." To prove his point, Kexavar opened a communication channel to all the military vessels. "Attention rescue ships. I am Warlord Kexavar. I have 237 hostages. If you attack, they all die. I want 10 million credits transferred to my account within 1 hour. And to show I am serious," he continued, "I will start by killing the human prisoners first. Humans are supposed to be so tough. Let's see how tough they are." The channel went silent. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Ryu's expression did not change. Her crew watched her carefully. They knew their captain well, and they recognized the deadly calm that came over her in moments like this. "Captain," her communications officer said quietly, "Kexavar has moved Dr. O and his daughter to the bridge of his ship. He's torturing Dr. O in front of the other hostages." Captain Ryu nodded slowly. "Specialist Kang Hyun-woo, prepare your boarding team." Specialist Kang was the leader of the ship's Special Operations Unit. He was a quiet man who spoke little, but was known for his efficiency in dangerous situations. "Yes, Captain. How many team members?" "Take 12. Standard rescue protocol." Specialist Kang paused. "Captain, there are over 200 hostages spread throughout that ship. 12 operators for a ship that size will be sufficient." Captain Ryu finished. "Trust your training, Specialist." On the alien ships watching from a distance, commanders looked at their instruments in disbelief. The human ship was launching a single small shuttle toward the pirate vessel. "Impossible," Captain Zulthor muttered. 12 humans against 50 pirates and a ship full of hostages. It cannot be done." But even as he said it, he was ordering his ship to move further away. The boarding shuttle attached to the pirate ship's hull like a metal tick. Specialist Kang and his team cut through the outer wall and entered the ship. The pirates detected them immediately. "Intruders!" Kexavar shouted over the ship's communication system. "All units, kill the humans!" What happened next would be remembered by every survivor on that ship for the rest of their lives. The human boarding team moved through the pirate vessel with terrifying precision. They did not run or shout or show any emotion. They simply walked from room to room, disabling pirates with calm efficiency. Pirate after pirate fell to stun weapons or restraining devices. But it was not the weapons that broke the pirates' will to fight. It was the complete absence of anger or fear in the humans' faces. They worked like machines, but machines that could think and adapt. Raxtol, the Kellian second-in-command, tried to organize resistance. But when he saw Specialist Kang approaching his position, something inside him broke. The human's face was completely calm, even friendly. He was not enjoying the violence or taking revenge. He was simply doing a job that needed to be done. "Please," Raxtol whispered, dropping his weapon. "Please don't." Specialist Kang stunned him gently and moved on to the next room. On the bridge, Warlord Kexvar was becoming desperate. Dr. Oh Sung-min was barely conscious from the torture, but his daughter Nari was watching everything with terrified eyes. "I'll kill them!" Kexvar shouted into his communicator. "I'll kill the humans right now!" "No need," came a calm voice behind him. Kexvar spun around to find Specialist Kang standing in the doorway of the bridge. The human had somehow made it, through 50 armed pirates and multiple security barriers without making a sound. "How?" Kexvar stammered. Specialist Kang walked forward slowly. His weapon was not even drawn. "Please, step away from the hostages," he said politely. Kexvar held his gun to little Nari's head. "Stay back, or I kill her!" Specialist Kang stopped walking. He looked at the terrified girl, then at her wounded father, then at Kexvar. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. It might have been anger or sadness or disgust, but then it was gone, replaced by that same terrible calm. "You won't kill her," Specialist Kang said. "I will," Kexvar screamed. "I'll do it." "No," Specialist Kang said, taking another step forward. "You won't. Because if you hurt that child, I will have to hurt you, and neither of us wants that to happen." There was something in the human's voice that made Kexvar's hands shake. It was not a threat or a promise of violence. It was simply a statement of fact, delivered with the same tone someone might use to discuss the weather. Kexvar looked into Specialist Kang's eyes and saw something that made him drop his weapon. He saw a depth of controlled coldness that suggested this human could do absolutely anything that needed to be done and then continue with his day as if nothing had happened. "Please," Kexvar whispered, just like his second-in-command had. "Please don't." Specialist Kang stunned him with a non-lethal weapon and immediately moved to help Dr. O and Nari. Within an hour, every pirate on the ship had been captured alive. The hostages were rescued without a single civilian casualty. The pirate vessel was disabled, but not destroyed. Back on their ships, the alien commanders watched the aftermath in silent horror. They could not understand exactly what they had witnessed, but they knew they never wanted to see it again. The humans had been perfectly efficient, perfectly controlled, and perfectly merciful. Somehow, that combination was more terrifying than any display of raw violence could have been. Captain Ryu's after-action report would be brief and professional, but the alien witnesses would never forget the day they watched 12 humans do the impossible, not through superior strength or advanced technology, but through something far more unsettling, the ability to remain completely human while doing inhuman things. The rescue at Kepler Border Zone changed everything. Within days, the story spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communications could carry it. 12 humans had defeated 50 pirates and rescued over 200 hostages without a single civilian death. More importantly, they had done it while every alien military force watched from a safe distance. Admiral Park Sung-woo received the emergency summons while reviewing the rescue reports aboard his flagship. The message came directly from the Galactic Council, sealed with the highest priority codes. "Admiral," his aide said nervously, "they want you to appear before the full council within 48 hours. Admiral Park had been expecting this. The Kepler incident had forced the galaxy to confront something they had been trying to forget for 500 years. As the senior human military officer in the sector, he would have to provide answers to questions that had no good answers. The Galactic Council met on Concordia, a neutral world that belonged to no single species. The Great Assembly Hall could hold representatives from 1,000 worlds. Today, it was packed. Every major species in the galaxy had sent their leaders. Admiral Park walked into the hall wearing his dress uniform. Around him, beings of all shapes and sizes watched with a mixture of fear and curiosity. At the center of the hall sat the High Council, 12 representatives from the most powerful civilizations. Counselor Veltara of the Mystic Confederation stood to address him. Her people were ancient and wise, known for their ability to see patterns across time and space. She had been on the council for over 3 centuries. "Admiral Park," she said in her musical voice, "we have called you here to discuss recent events. But more importantly, we must discuss old events, events that this council has kept hidden for 500 years. Admiral Park remained standing at attention. "I am at the council's service. Are you?" Counselor Veltara asked. "Or are we at yours? This is the question that haunts us all." She gestured, and a holographic display appeared above the assembly hall. It showed images of the Great Cataclysm, burning worlds, dead fleets, entire systems reduced to ash and debris. 500 years ago, Counselor Veltara continued, 3 great empires were destroying each other. The war had spread to over 1,000 worlds. Billions were dead. Billions more were dying. Entire species faced extinction. The images changed to show the final phase of the war, desperate battles around the last inhabitable worlds, refugee, fleets fleeing from system to system. And then, Counselor Veltara said, humanity arrived. New images appeared. Human ships, smaller and fewer than the great imperial fleets, but moving with purpose through the chaos. "We told our children that humans ended the war through diplomacy," Counselor Veltara said. "We told them that your species brought peace through wisdom and negotiation. We lied." Admiral Park said nothing. Around the hall, representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "The truth," Counselor Veltara continued, "is that humans ended the war through a method so disturbing to our psychology that we chose to forget it rather than remember it." She looked directly at Admiral Park. "The truth is that your species committed calculated methodical genocide, not in anger, not in fear, not even in hatred. You killed an entire species with the same emotional detachment that others might show when solving a mathematical equation." The hall erupted in nervous whispers. Many of the younger representatives had never heard this version of history. "The Devourers," Admiral Park said quietly. "Yes," Counselor Veltara confirmed. "The Devourers, a parasitic species that consumed entire populations. They had spread across the galaxy, causing the 3 empires to fight over the few remaining safe worlds." More images appeared in the hologram, creatures that looked like a cross between insects and nightmares, worlds stripped bare of all life, population centers reduced to empty shells. "The Devourers could not be reasoned with," Counselor Veltara explained. "They could not be negotiated with or contained. They existed only to consume and reproduce. Every attempt at communication failed. Every attempt at coexistence ended in death. So we did what was necessary," Admiral Park said. "You did what none of us could do," Counselor Veltara corrected. "You studied them. You cataloged them. You learned everything about their biology, their reproduction, their behavior patterns, and then you systematically hunted down every single member of their species and eliminated them." The hologram now showed human research stations, scientists in clean white coats examining devourer specimens, data charts tracking population movements, military units moving from world to world with clinical precision. "Commander Young Insu led the operation," Admiral Park said. "Operation Silence. The goal was complete species extinction within 18 months. And you achieved that goal? Counselor Veltara said. But it was not the killing that terrified us. Every species in this galaxy has killed when necessary. It was how you killed them. She gestured again, and new images appeared. Human soldiers methodically clearing devourer nests, scientists taking notes while observing extermination procedures, officers writing reports about the most efficient methods of genocide. Dr. Lim Soo-jin was the chief xenobiologist on the project, Admiral Park continued. Her job was to ensure complete elimination with minimal collateral damage to other species. Her reports read like medical procedures, Counselor Veltara said. Temperature settings for atmospheric poisoning, genetic markers for targeted biological weapons, psychological profiles for breaking devourer group behavior. She wrote about the extinction of an entire species the way others write about curing a disease. Around the hall, representatives from emotional species showed signs of distress. The empaths were glowing with dim, frightened colors. The Kellian's fur was standing on end. Even the normally composed Saurians were shifting restlessly. What? You must understand, Admiral Park said to the assembly, is that we did not enjoy this work. Commander Young suffered severe psychological trauma afterward. Dr. Lim spent years in therapy. Half of the soldiers involved in Operation Silence had to be retired from active duty. But you completed the mission anyway, Counselor Veltara observed. Yes. Even though it was destroying your own people psychologically. Yes. Because you judged it necessary for the survival of galactic civilization. Yes. Counselor Veltara sat down heavily. This is what we cannot understand. This is what makes you untouchable. You can make the choice to break yourselves rather than break the mission. You can choose to carry the psychological burden of necessary evil rather than allow that evil to continue. A young representative from the Harmony Collective stood up. But why hide this? If humans saved the galaxy, why keep it secret? An older counselor, Lord Thexmore of the Crystal Dynasties, answered. Because knowing this truth changes how we see everything. If humans can commit genocide with scientific precision and then live with the consequences, what else might they be capable of? What other problems might they solve in ways that we cannot bear to witness? Every species has limits, Counselor, Veltara added. Lines they cannot cross even to save themselves. Humans appear to have no such limits when the survival of others is at stake. They will cross any line, break any taboo, commit any atrocity if they judge it necessary for the greater good. And then, Lord Thexmore continued, they will carry the guilt and trauma of those actions so that the rest of us don't have to. Admiral Park looked around the assembly hall. Is that why everyone fears us? Because we're willing to be the monsters so you don't have to be? Partly, Counselor Veltara said. But also because we never know when you might decide that we are the problem. That needs to be solved. The hall fell completely silent. This was the fear that no one had dared to speak aloud. If humans could eliminate the devourers with such efficiency, what would happen to any species that threatened galactic peace? We don't make that choice lightly, Admiral Park said. The decision to eliminate the devourers took months of debate. We tried every alternative first. We know, Counselor Veltara said. We have read the records. Humans attempted negotiation, containment, relocation, even genetic modification of the devourers. Only when all other options were exhausted did you resort to extinction. So why do you still fear us? Counselor Veltara stood up again. Because you have that option. Because when every other species reaches the end of their moral flexibility, humans can keep going. You can do what we cannot do, think what we cannot think, carry burdens we cannot carry. She paused, looking directly at Admiral Park. We fear you because you are capable of saving us from anything, including ourselves. And salvation from humans always comes at a price that we are not sure we can afford to pay. The session ended with no formal resolutions or declarations. But something had changed in the galaxy. The truth was out, spoken aloud for the first time in 5 centuries. Humans were not monsters, but they were willing to become monsters when necessary. They were the species that would touch the untouchable, do the undoable, and then live with the consequences. As Admiral Park left the assembly hall, he wondered if this revelation would make things better or worse. The truth was supposed to set people free, but sometimes the truth was more frightening than the lies it replaced. 6 months after the Galactic Council revelation, the galaxy was still adjusting to the truth about humanity. Some species had withdrawn from human contact entirely. Others had become more aggressive, as if testing whether humans would respond with their legendary coldness. A few had tried to understand. Ambassador Song Min Kyung stood before the largest gathering in galactic history. Every inhabited world had sent representatives to the Great Assembly on Nexus Prime. The station had been expanded twice to accommodate the crowds. Outside the main hall, billions more watched through holographic broadcasts. Fellow beings, Ambassador Song began, we are here because fear has replaced understanding. Truth has become more frightening than lies. We must change this, or we will destroy the peace our ancestors built. In the audience, representatives sat in carefully arranged sections. The emotional species clustered together for comfort. The logical species maintained precise distances. The humans sat alone, as they had for months now. Ambassador Song was young for such an important position, only 35 years old. But she had been chosen specifically because she represented a new generation of human diplomats, those who had grown up after the Great Cataclysm, who knew the truth but had not lived through the trauma of Operation Silence. You fear us because you think we have no limits, she continued. You believe we can do anything, cross any line, commit any atrocity if we judge it necessary. This is not entirely wrong, but it is not the complete truth either. She gestured, and a holographic display showed images from recent months, humans working alongside alien medical teams, human engineers helping to rebuild damaged colonies, human teachers in mixed-species schools. What you see as coldness we call compartmentalization. What you see as inhuman efficiency we call necessary sacrifice. We do not lack emotions. We do not enjoy causing pain. We simply choose when and how to feel our emotions. Dr. Shin Yon-ho, a human psychologist, joined her on the stage. He had spent his career studying how different species processed trauma and stress. Let me demonstrate, Dr. Shin said. I need a volunteer from the audience. After some hesitation, a young Kellyan named Fexra came forward. His fur was the gray-brown color that indicated curiosity mixed with nervousness. Fexra, Dr. Shin, said gently, imagine that you must choose between saving your own child or saving 10 stranger children. What would you do? Fexra's fur immediately shifted to deep black, the color of distress. I cannot make such a choice. It would destroy me. Exactly, Dr. Shin said. For most species, impossible moral choices cause immediate psychological breakdown. You feel the full weight of the decision in the moment you must make it. He turned to Ambassador Song. Ambassador, the same question. Ambassador Song's expression did not change. I would save the 10 children. Then I would spend the rest of my life grieving for my own child and questioning whether I made the right choice. Fexra's fur rippled with confusion. But how can you make such a decision so easily? Not easily, Ambassador Song corrected. I can make the decision quickly because I separate the choosing from the feeling. I can act on logic first, then process the emotions later. This is what you call coldness. We call it survival. Dr. Shin nodded. Humans evolved on a world that forced impossible choices. Save the group or save the individual. Fight the predator or flee to safety. Sacrifice the few or lose the many. We developed the ability to make these choices first and feel the consequences afterward. An elderly counselor from the Mystic Confederation stood up. But what about the soldiers from Operation Silence? What happened to them afterward? Captain Ko Jae-sung, a veteran of the Devourer campaign, stepped forward. He was older now, his hair gray and his face marked by years of hidden pain. "We broke," he said simply. "After the mission was complete, after the galaxy was safe, we fell apart." Commander Young In-soo took his own life 3 years after the operation ended. Dr. Lim Soo-jin spent a decade in psychiatric care. Half of my unit suffered complete psychological collapse. The hall was completely silent now. This was the part of the story that had never been told. "We knew this would happen," Captain Ko continued. "We planned for it. The mission protocols included psychological support teams, medical leave, even memory suppression techniques for the worst cases. We went into Operation Silence knowing it would destroy us as individuals." "Then why?" asked a representative from the Harmony Collective. "Why sacrifice yourselves?" "Because someone had to," Captain Ko replied. "And we were the only species that could compartmentalize well enough to complete the mission before breaking down." Ambassador Song stepped forward again. "This is what makes us untouchable. Not that we lack conscience or empathy, not that we enjoy violence or suffering. We are untouchable because we are willing to touch the untouchable and then bear the cost ourselves." She looked around the assembly hall. "You fear that we might decide you are a problem to be solved, but you misunderstand how we make such decisions. It took us months of debate to authorize Operation Silence. We tried every alternative first. We sought input from every allied species. We even asked for volunteers from other militaries. No one volunteered," Captain Ko added, "not because they were cowards, but because they were psychologically incapable of the kind of detached efficiency the mission required." A new voice spoke from the audience. It was Warlord Kexvar, the pirate leader who had been captured at Kepler border zone. He was attending the assembly as part of his rehabilitation program. "May I speak?" he asked. The assembly stirred with surprise. Pirates were not usually given speaking rights in galactic forums. "When I held that human child at gunpoint," Kexvar said, "I looked into the eyes of the human soldier. I expected to see anger or hatred or fear. Instead, I saw sadness. Deep, terrible sadness. He was not enjoying the situation. He was not eager for violence. He was simply prepared to do whatever was necessary to save that child." Kexvar stood up fully. "But what terrified me was not his willingness to hurt me. It was his willingness to carry the burden of hurting me. He was prepared to commit violence and then live with the guilt and trauma of that violence for the rest of his life. All to save one frightened little girl." Counselor Moon Ju-young, a human expert in interspecies psychology, took the stage. "This is the truth about human moral flexibility. We do not abandon our conscience when we do terrible things. We expand it. We choose to carry guilt that would destroy other species so that those terrible things can be done when absolutely necessary." "But how do we know you won't use this ability against us?" asked a representative from the Saurian Empire. "Because," Counselor Moon replied, "we have created systems to prevent it. Every major human decision is reviewed by multi-species committees. Our military operates under strict ethical guidelines that are monitored by non-human observers. We have built safeguards into our own psychology." President Nam Hee-young, the leader of the Human Colonial Federation, stood up in the audience. She was the highest-ranking human official in the galaxy. "Today, I am announcing the Covenant of Understanding," she said. "Humanity pledges to use our unique psychological capabilities only when the survival of galactic civilization is at stake. In return, we ask for the support we need to bear the emotional cost of such actions." She gestured, and a document appeared on the holographic display. "This covenant creates joint oversight committees for any operation that might require human moral flexibility. It establishes support systems for human personnel who undertake necessary but traumatic missions. Most importantly, it ensures that humans never make these decisions alone." The document also outlined something new: the integration protocol. Instead of isolating humans out of fear, it created mixed species teams where human psychological resilience could be balanced by alien, emotional wisdom. Over the following days, species after species signed the Covenant of Understanding. Not because they had stopped fearing humans, but because they had learned to understand that fear. Humans were dangerous, but they were dangerous in a controlled way, like a powerful tool that could be used for construction or destruction depending on how it was wielded. Dr. Park So-young, who had started this journey of discovery aboard the Stellar Harmony, now worked with a team that included beings from 7 different species. They studied not just human psychology, but how human capabilities could be integrated with alien strengths to solve problems no single species could handle alone. "We are not monsters," she wrote in her final report, "but we are willing to become monsters when the alternative is the destruction of everything we value. The galaxy has learned that this makes us untouchable. We have learned that being untouchable is both our greatest strength and our heaviest burden." The report continued. "The true victory is not that other species have stopped fearing us. It is that they have learned to understand their fear and work with us despite it. We are no longer isolated by our differences. We are united by our shared commitment to galactic survival." In the months that followed, human-alien cooperation reached levels not seen since before the Great Cataclysm. Mixed crews served on exploration vessels. Joint research teams tackled scientific problems. Most importantly, the galaxy had created a system where humanity's unique psychological traits could be used for everyone's benefit while minimizing